In this episode, we're summarizing the 10th episode from Season 4 of the Wire series titled Misgivings. The episode first aired on November 9th, 2006. In the beginning, Senator Davis assures Burrell that he is safe from Rawls' plans now that Garcetti is in power. Davis thinks Burrell's race is his advantage, but suggests impressing the mayor with police work. Burrell is unsure of what to do. Later on, Davis meets Garcetti and Wilson to discuss Burrell's situation. Wilson hopes Burrell's supporters will switch sides if they find a better candidate. Davis offers help with getting a pay raise approved in exchange for a future favor. Wilson suspects Davis has ulterior motives, but is not sure what they are yet. Davis arranges a meeting between Campbell and Burrell. They try to persuade her that Daniels isn't fit for commissioner. Davis asks Campbell to delay the full pay raise to give Burrell a chance to impress Garcetti and discredit Daniels. He suggests providing half the requested raise. Then Davis secretly informs Garcetti's staff that he has secured the salary increase Garcetti wanted. Back at the Western District Command, during the roll call briefing, Lieutenant Mello discusses recent church burglaries and suggests collaboration between officers McNulty and Baker. He proposes making arrests for quality of life violations to bust arrest statistics, citing orders from the commissioner. However, officers like McNulty and Santangelo oppose the idea of arresting people for open container violations, despite Mello's insistence on its necessity. After roll call, Carver tells Naaman that he needs to find an alternate accommodation. Naaman pleads with Carver to contact his teacher, Mr. Colvin. Initially, Colvin suggests sending Naaman to juvenile booking, but after some encouragement, he agrees to check with his wife about Naaman staying with them instead. At the Colvin residence, Naaman behaves politely. He notices Colvin's nickname, but is intimidated into not mentioning it. The next day, Colvin returns Naaman to his mother, who criticizes his fear of going to juvenile booking despite Colvin's kindness. At the end of their shift, McNulty and Baker bring in two suspects. Initially, the desk sergeant plans to treat them like other detainees. However, upon learning they are linked to church burglaries, the sergeant is relieved to have quote-unquote real criminals to deal with, given the station's influx of minor offenders. Later, McNulty dines with Bunk and their sons. Elena McNulty arrives, pleasantly surprised by their sons' completed homework and McNulty's refusal of a drink. She expresses regret over their failed marriage, noting McNulty's apparent maturity. In another scene, Mello shares concerns about new arrest tactics with Daniels, who is hesitant to comply with Burrell's orders. Daniels, realizing the unjust arrests, takes the issue with Mayor Garcetti, exposing Burrell's agenda. Garcetti is of course shocked to hear this news, and he questions Daniels' ability to bypass Rawls. Daniels defends his actions as a test of Garcetti's commitment to change. Daniels suspects that Rawls has not informed Garcetti and that he may be complicit in the act himself. Garcetti acknowledges Daniels' initiative but warns against making it a habit. Later on, Bodie and Pooh talk about aging as they notice changes in the weather. Little Kevin returns after being questioned by the police about Lex's murder. His friends advise him to confess to Marlo Stanfield while he has the chance. Little Kevin faces Marlo and Chris, who react harshly to his indirect approach in dealing with Lex. Marlo orders Monk to take action, leading to Kevin being taken away. Chris expresses concerns about Randy potentially being an informant, and Marlo essentially tells him not to worry, that the streets will take care of the rumors themselves. Meanwhile, Slim Charles arrives as Kevin is driven off for the last time. In another scene, Omar and Ronaldo observe Marlo's operation from the courtyard. Omar recognizes Slim Charles from his past with the Barksdale organization. Michael shows Snoop and Chris his stepfather while buying drugs, hinting at wanting him to be killed. Chris understands Michael's motive and agrees to help him with his stepfather. Slim visits Pooh and Bodie, informing them about Kevin's murder by Marlo. Omar follows Slim home, irritating Ronaldo with the repetitive task. Bodie and Pooh talk about Marlo's actions. Bodie is upset that Marlo took out Kevin without evidence of police involvement, but Pooh reminds Bodie that this is exactly what they did to Wallace when they were under Stringer Bell's orders. They took out Wallace without actual evidence of him being a snitch, but Bodhi insists that Marlo is even more ruthless than Stringer. Pooh reflects on how people are becoming colder and colder, and the world is getting much harsher. Back at Michael's house, Michael tells his mom Bug's father is not going to be coming back home. Snoop and Chris follow the man and they accuse him of sexually abusing the boys in his own home. Chris proceeds to pummel Bugs' father. Chris continues until even Snoop is left shocked. This is the first time we see Chris take someone out without using a weapon. We also see this is a personal hit job for Chris. Perhaps Chris himself went through what Michael has been going through with his stepfather. This scene is one of the only scenes where we can see into Chris's past. Perhaps Chris was also abused, and he sees himself in Michael. As we catch up with Prez, we see he notices a rise in room temperature and discusses it with his colleague Grace. She explains that the school adjusts the temperature during exam prep to make students drowsy and less disruptive in longer classes. In the special class dedicated to the corner kids, Miss Duquette conducts a role-playing exercise with Kwame and Darnell, simulating a restaurant scenario. Meanwhile, Assistant Principal Donnelly and Dr. Parenti summon Colvin. They deliver disappointing news that despite the efforts to socialize disruptive students, they must adhere to the Education Board's directive to teach to the upcoming test. Additionally, they are required to attend a meeting with the school board. During the meeting, Parenti and Colvin talk about the recent restaurant visit with Miss Shepherdson from the school board. She insists on teaching to the test, frustrating Parenti, who feels the program's goals are being undermined. Colvin tries to explain the challenge of treating their class like others, but Shepherdson remains skeptical about deviating from standard practices for these children. We see here yet again that regardless of the institution, institutions tend to focus more on their mandates than what is actually good for the people that they serve. Colvin saw this firsthand in the institution of law enforcement, and now he is seeing how the exact same principle works out in the institution of education. The next day, Shepherdson observes Prez teaching test questions, but he resumes his regular lesson plan immediately after she leaves. Meanwhile, Randy deals with bullying in the corridors and is even ignored by his own friend Kareem in class. Michael steps in and offers to play with him, regardless of Randy's new reputation as a snitch. Principal Claudel Withers and Shepherdson observe the special class. A fight ends up erupting during a role-playing exercise between Zenobia and Chandra, leading to Miss Mason getting knocked over. Withers confesses it is his first time witnessing the class, disappointing Shepherdson. Afterward, Shepherdson discusses the program with the teachers, expressing skepticism. Donnelly offers her support, while Colvin, Duquette, and Parenti advocate passionately for its continuation. However, Mason is pessimistic about its effectiveness altogether. As we catch up with Herc, we see he is still searching for the missing camera Marlo stole from him. Bubbles is upset because Herc did not fulfill his previous promise. He also asks for aid with a drug addict who continues to steal from him. Herc promises to assist him, giving Bubbles a phone number and some money to call him when he spots the thief. Herc shares his dilemma with Officer Dozerman and Detective Sidnor, with Sidnor advising him to just report to the lieutenant to prevent escalation. Herc is concerned about Lieutenant Marimo's response if he were to come clean and tell him the truth. Herc faces hostility from Marimo when trying to confess and ignores Bubbles' calls while he is calling him during his meeting with Marimo. Marimo threatens Herc with an internal investigation, leading Herc to withhold information about the camera altogether. Bubbles is beaten and robbed yet again, but he ends up seeking revenge by tricking Herc into a fake resupply call involving a minister's car. Herc conducts an aggressive traffic stop, throwing the minister and his belongings onto the sidewalk during the search, which further gets him into trouble down the road. That was episode number 47, titled Misgivings. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. If you made it to the end of the video, remember I am summarizing this entire series as well as other popular works of culture like literature, movies, and TV shows. I have the playlists of our summaries in the description. If you found the video to be valuable, share it with a friend and click like so that YouTube can recommend it to other viewers like you. The best way to support this channel is by becoming a Patreon supporter, visiting our merchandise store, or by buying us a coffee. You will find those links in the description as well. Doing this helps my channel out tremendously. I really thank you for your support.